Hello, everyone. I'm Dave Despain. Welcome to the San Jose Mile here on Speed World.
As a kid, this man's voice piped through my house as my father and older brother sat glued to the television screen watching virtually any coverage of motorcycle racing. This voice has interviewed every single one of the titans of motorsports racing, including A.J. Foyt, Mario Andretti, Kenny Roberts, and Jeff Gordon. All of these guys have sat in this man's chair as he asked them the tough questions about their careers throughout the decades. Right now is my sit-down with a true legend of motorsports broadcasting, Dave Despain. I can't explain it, but some people are just born for adventure. They hear the calling and are compelled to get off the couch and see what's around the corner or over the next hill. Join me on the ride of my life. It's the beginning of October of 2014, and I'm sitting at the Overland Expo, which is an event where all aspects of overland adventure travel are celebrated from the perspective of the vehicle. Whether you're on a motorcycle that costs a couple grand, or a customized Unimog that has been transformed into a motorhome costing well over $1 million, they're all here to chew the fat, reunite, and tell stories of their many transcontinental adventures from around the world. I can't help but notice a gentleman emerging from his tent, donning his gear in preparation for his off-road motorcycle training course. I can't help but think to myself, check out that guy over there trying really hard to look like Dave Despain. My eyes come into focus and then it hits me. That is Dave Despain. I encountered the family hero getting a little dirt bike instruction. He is, after all, a lifelong motorcyclist.
I want to be a racer. All I lacked was talent, courage, and stature. I mean, I'm way too big to be a motorcycle racer. I had been a disc jockey in the smallest radio station the FCC licenses, 250-watt daytime radio station, Fairfield, Iowa. It was something I stumbled into. It was fun. It was easy. I don't ever remember thinking, I want to be fill in the blank. Mm-hmm. Fireman, astronaut, disc jockey, motorcycle racer. But I mean, that came pretty late. I was well into high school when I got involved with bikes and discovered racing and thought, I'd like to do that.
Who were the heroes at that era? Who was the guy when you were in high school?
Bart Markle. My thing was oval, flat track racing.
Dirt track, flat track.
Back then, and this dates me, Harley Davidsons were fast. The fastest production bike you could buy was a Harley Sportster. A Harley Sportster today is probably about as fast as it was in 1962, 3, 4. But back then, Harley Davidson was the hot thing, and the Harley factory team, those guys were our heroes. We rode to all the nationals around the Midwest and cheered for the Harleys. My case, it was just total accident. Had that fascination, wanted to be a racer, wasn't any good at it, but I figured out that I was pretty good at announcing motorcycle races. So, 72 I think it was. Ended up with a job with the American Motorcycle Association, announcing races, writing press releases, being a sort of a promotional person in the racing department. 1975, we go to the Daytona 200, and ABC Wide World of Sports showed up at the last minute to do the race and didn't have an expert analyst. My boss, one of the consummate bullshitters of all time, said, you should use our guy. He's got a lot of electronic media experience. 250-watt daytime radio station disc jockey in Iowa. That's my electronic media experience.
Congratulations.
Guy sent me down to pit road, says, look in the camera and in 45 seconds tell somebody who doesn't know anything about motorcycle racing why they should watch the Daytona 200. I can do that. So I did my little spiel. It's protected only by a thin layer of leather, 200 miles an hour, inches from the concrete wall. It was just the kind of hype that
someone may die if you watch this show.
Exactly. And so they thought that was great, and they hired me for the weekend. Back then, you're not old enough to remember this, but the Wide World of Sports guys wore gold blazers with ABC crest on the pocket.
Because my dad was addicted to that programming in the 70s. I do believe that my father raised me during the commercial segments of these television shows.
The thrill of victory and and the agony of defeat.
I never aspired to be on television. Never imagined doing that for a living. After that show, never really thought very much about it. I mean, it was a nice paycheck. My passion was motorcycling. I knew that wasn't ABC Wide World of Sports' passion. I knew they weren't going to send me off to cover a motorcycle race every weekend. I never thought any more about it. I went back to my day job at the AMA. Well, 5 years later, I had gotten more opportunities to do TV stuff on the side. The AMA thing had kind of run its course. There were a lot of internal reasons that it wasn't such a hot deal to stay there anymore. So I embarked on a television career. But I tell people all the time that I'm in the television business because of a carefully calculated combination of dumb luck and bullshit. And that's just my dumb luck and my boss's bullshit are the reason I've been able to do this for too many years.
What a gig.
When did you realize that you sort of Forrest Gumped your way into the coolest gig in the world?
Pretty quickly. When I started in the early 80s, being on television was pretty special. And I don't have a real big ego. I didn't perceive that I somehow became a magical person because I got a job on TV. But other people's perceptions of me changed. And so that was when it kind of clicked in my mind that, you know, whatever you do with this and wherever it leads, you're pretty lucky to have gotten this opportunity. And it paid enough that I could indulge my passion, which was motorcycles. I also understood early on that it was a fairly tenuous business, easy to blunder into, easy to get booted out of, you know, if your show doesn't make it.
So you're on thin ice the whole time.
But I kept my day job. I kept all my freelance stuff. So I would do the show, Motor Week Illustrated on Turner Broadcasting, and then I would go off and do PA announcing on weekends or do other things. And that meant lots of, you know, get to the racetrack a long way away in a hurry, and then when the race is over, getting back because you got to go back to work. So I became a real kind of high mileage bike guy.
And you're rubbing shoulders with some of the guys that later became the ingredients of legendary stories.
Ken Squire was a mentor of mine, the guy who famously hosted the 1979 Daytona 500. And there's a fight.
And there's a fight between Cale Yarborough and Donnie Allison. The tempers overflowing.
And the guys that we were watching as kids, Kenny Schrader comes to mind, thinking that guy's pretty cool, he's pretty fast. Jeff Gordon is a better example.
Got it.
I interviewed Jeff Gordon when he had that little cheesy mustache and was about 17 or 18 years old for the first time.
We'll tell you all about Eric Gordon's exploits this weekend and why he's got those bags under his eyes. He's been doing a lot of airplane time here.
And thought, this kid's going to be somebody. Well, he became Jeff Gordon. And to have the opportunity to watch talent like that develop is one of the coolest things about the job. I interviewed Kenny Roberts when he was a 17-year-old junior, and the worst interview ever. So to get to come back and interview him on the Dave Despain show on MAVTV 40 years after the fact, after he's gone on to be world champion and build his own team and all the things that Kenny Roberts has done and become, that's pretty cool. You were a tough interview when you were 17 years old.
I don't talk much now.
Why that interview? Was he just shy, one-word answers, just not really engaged?
He was riding this old piece of crap Yamaha that, you know, he had to try to keep up with the Harleys. It was an incredible underdog situation. I mean, bless Yamaha's heart. They fought that fight. You know, they brought a knife to the gunfight and stayed in the game pretty effectively, won 2 championships. But at that time, he was just a high school dropout kid trying to make his way, and he didn't have time to talk to me. He needed to be working on that bike. He needed to be trying. It was race morning. He needed to get his game face on. I mean, Kenny had no reason to give me the time of day. In retrospect, he was very generous to give me those one-word answers for about 30 seconds before he went back to working on his Yamaha, and I went back to try to figure out how I was going to get, you know, make a living out of this. At age 40, I decided I needed to be a road racer. It actually was not some sort of extension of my childhood dream. It was another accident. Kawasaki came out with the original Ninja 900 in 1984 and sold a bunch of them for $1,500 to press guys. The Ninja was a little bit of a game changer in terms of performance, and so I'm riding it up in the mountains thinking, I'm going to hurt myself on this thing. And then it occurred to me, gee, I wonder if I could take it to the racetrack. I called the AMA and said, how does your amateur road racing program work? Well, you have to have some sort of experience. Weren't you a novice dirt tracker? I said, how on earth do you remember that? Yes, I was. I had an AMA professional license. Oh, well, you qualify. The AMA, in its infinite wisdom, mandated that novices were no longer allowed to ride anything bigger than a 750. So I got rid of my nice, predictable, long wheelbase, easy to ride Ninja and got the first GSXR 750, 1986. It gets worse. I won a race, a novice regional race, but I won a race.
Oh, so now you're drinking Kool-Aid.
I am just
Yeah.
Superman. Flung it off turn 9 at Roebling Road at 100 plus and broke my leg. I'm a TV guy now, right? So I'm the next
Wheeling it
weekend.
out.
Next
Nice.
weekend, I got to go to Sebring and anchor the broadcast on TBS of the 12 Hours of Sebring. And Squire's partner, Fred Reinstein, my boss in the television business, I think to send me a subtle message, said, okay, for the opening stand-up, we're going to have you walk from here over to here and deliver your little line. And I said, well, Fred, I'm on crutches. I can't walk. He said, that's not my problem.
Get it done.
Yeah, well, I had to do it on crutches. He made me do the opening stand-up of the 12 Hours of Sebring broadcast on crutches.
Wow.
Again, I figured out that I needed to not race
Okay.
anymore. But winning that race was a very proud moment in my life.
So now you know what it's like to be a winner.
Yeah.
You know what it's like to have a 6-inch trophy.
Yeah,
You know that it took you 40 years to get that 6-inch trophy.
mission accomplished. Check the box.
And now you are slowly evolving to become the go-to guy for all questions in media regarding two wheels.
Oh, I don't think so. No, I mean, I think
There's
that
a lot of people who think so.
Well, I think that day came and went, and I'll tell you why. When I went to Speed Vision in '98, I might have been that guy. Speed Vision was kind of a happening thing. I had a weekly show. More importantly, that was 16 or 17 years ago, so I was 50 rather than what I am now. There's a certain place for the elder statesman, and as much as I hate being that, I understand that role. If I can provide some sort of perspective and wisdom based on having done it for 50 years, I'm okay with that. I'm good with that.
And the motorcycle culture has changed dramatically in 50 years.
In the 1960s and 70s, you were buying something pretty basic, and now you can buy something pretty sophisticated by any standard.
Look at what has happened recently in this little motorcycle sort of splinter cult, the adventure rider. And that was just the guy. I mean, you were an iron butt guy before iron butt became fashionable. You were doing 1,000-mile stints in a day, and so you know what it's like to eat miles and ride slab. You can do it on a very comfortable bike. I mean, this GS, I say GS because that's my bike. That is the ultimate touring bike. I mean, it is as comfortable.
You never get the tires dirty.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful motorcycle.
It's absolutely everything you would ever want in a motorcycle if you're only going to ride pavement.
Yeah.
And
However,
comma. So it opens up a whole other world where there aren't roads, and you can go take those too.
Yeah, my clunky old KLR, 2004 model, not the most sophisticated bike by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm determined that motorcycle will see 100,000 miles.
Cool.
It's at 66. I'm at 68. There's a bit of there's a bit of a race on here.
What has in the entire expanse of your career, what has been the ride of your life?
The ride of my life. That's a tough one. That's really tough. The last dirt track race that I rode at Sedalia, Missouri. I had gone there and spectated as a kid and watched the aforementioned Harley factory team Freddie Nix was the man on the mile, won all the mile races. That was a huge thrill for me. So to get to race on that racetrack was pretty hot stuff. Had what we were told later was a great 6-man battle for the win. And the other 14 of us ran around in a pack the size of this motorhome Shadow for, I don't know if it was 10 or 15 laps, banging into each other. We could all run exactly the same speed, little 2-stroke singles that would all run 87 miles an hour. That's all it would run. Turns out the other 14 guys had all done the same thing, and we could all go 87 miles an hour, and it was a hoot.
Dave Despain, this is awesome. I love the spontaneity. I love your energy. I love what you've done for the community. It's super cool. Let's just kick it with you.
It's fun. Carry on the torch, young man.
If
continue the good work.
If Dave Despain is giving me the torch, I will, with honor and humility, I will not set fire to the house that you built. It's true, man.
Well, that's the episode. Thanks so much for joining me on The Ride of My Life. Do me a favor, click the subscribe tab below so you can follow us and you won't miss any more episodes. And if you'd like to hear the podcast version of this, you can go to our podcast page on iTunes where we have The Ride of My Life there, and you can listen to some bonus tracks there as well. You can reach us at brad@therideofmylife.net and let us know what you think, where you'd like us to feature, if you'd like to come with us, or give us some advice. We'd really like to hear what you have to say. Thanks so much.